news channel in India. Again, we made all the investments, took all the risks, and paid them a royalty. We then bought 50% of Viacom's India operations, including such iconic brands as MTV India, Nickelodeon India, and VH1 India. We put in slightly over $100 million to launch Colors, a general entertainment channel. The venture was led by our CEO, delighting our foreign partners with its spectacular success. Next on our roll call was Forbes, as we set about publishing Forbes India. In less than 5 years, we had put together a pantheon of the world's leading media brands on the same Indian balance sheet. Who would have imagined or dared to bring such competing American media groups, CNBC, CNN, MTV, Nickelodeon, VH1, Forbes, under a single owner? I am often asked, "How did you pull that off?" My answer is a shrug. How do I say that I must have been a foreign investor in at least a couple of my previous births? The color of money has changed from financial to strategic, but the skepticism never ceased. Why is the Indian market so small? Why are Indian regulations so weak and confusing? Why is there no protection for intellectual property rights? Why does the Indian consumer steal our signals? Why do Indian courts take so long to decide anything? Why do Indians prefer tacky Bollywood films to Hollywood's masterpieces? Why are Indian commentators and politicians so free with their words and criticism? Why don't you have stricter libel and defamation laws? Why do we have to use Indian satellites only? Why are long overdue policy decisions put on hold by ever so frequent elections? Why is India's bureaucracy so timid? Why are India's bankers so conservative? Why are the interest rates so high? Why are all policies made in English? How do Indians speak such good English? Why does such abject poverty coexist with such immense amounts of corporate wealth in India? Why do you want more dollars to come into your country? How come you have built such an efficient capital market, but then why don't you have a bond market? Why do you control the prices of oil and cable TV? Why is the government trying but failing to ban jeans in colleges? Why do your social clubs insist on Western attire? Why don't you allow more foreign players in your cricket league? Why do you have such old politicians in key ministries? Invariably, almost every such why conversation would end with, "Oh, but it's not like that in China, or Korea, or Thailand, or Dubai." Frankly, I could never escape the feeling that India was just a hedging instrument for the investors. While they put serious money and conviction into China, Korea, Thailand, and Dubai, their attitude towards India was, to use their terminology, somewhat derivative or collateral. India was a bit too complex and inexplicable for them, yet India had some of the dynamics which could, one odd day, make for an economic superpower. So, even if they couldn't or wouldn't understand the country, they dared not bypass it, since India had mysterious potential. It could be the quaint outlier or multi-bagger in their portfolio. It made sense to play blind on India, put in some money, but not bother too much with it. If you were dealt a good hand, you could make a killing. Otherwise, your max downside was to simply write off the investment as a hedging cost for bets taken elsewhere in Asia. A question began to beg for an answer. Do these foreigners even get India? I was 22 when I first set foot on foreign soil, in February 1982. It was under extraordinary circumstances. I was flown into New York for emergency medical treatment. Our plane landed in a city buried under a severe snowstorm. Muscular attendants pushed my stretcher past immigration and loaded it onto a howling ambulance. Everything was a blur of ceiling lights and whizzing corridors. It was my first brush with American efficiency, and I was wide-eyed with admiration. The traffic into Midtown Manhattan was exceptionally heavy.